Can you let me know if you can see my screen just now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. You can still see, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about the creation of user stories and acceptance criteria. Like I said before, my name is Oke Okunfolami. So just an outline of what we'll be going through. We'll be looking at epics, features, user stories, and acceptance criteria. And that's because you can't talk about user stories in isolation. You have to also consider epics, every other thing else related to the user story itself. Okay, so we're gonna start with some definitions. So what is an epic? So what I've written here is that it's a high-level body of work that bands together a group of related stories. So what I mean by stories there is user stories, okay? They are large pieces of work that can be broken down into smaller and more manageable work items, tasks, or user stories. So what that means is that a group of related stories can be classified or grouped together, and they would collectively form an epic. Okay, so if you flip it the other way, an epic can be broken down into more, manageable work items. What that means is that an epic on its own cannot be dealt with like well, as we go further on, I'll come back to what I mean by this in terms of the size of an epic. So more manageable work items, tasks, or user stories, right? An epic can be broken into those. They also used to describe more complex tasks, and they create a clear hierarchy that makes it easier to manage development and help deliver new value to the users while working towards a bigger goal. What this means, I mean, it's a very long sentence, but what it means is that complex tasks, that's the keyword, complex tasks, right? So like just by definition, a complex task is something that you cannot finish a complex task in a short time. However, if you were to break it down into manageable work items or smaller tasks, then you can tackle it tackle them one by one. It says it creates a clear hierarchy that makes it easier to manage development. So you're able to track. So epics are like large pieces of work. You understand? Large pieces of work. And for, will I say, management information purposes, it can help you track development and what the focus is for any point in time. Okay. So it's just like saying, maybe I won't give the example just now. As we go on, and you get a better sense of it. But what you just need to know is that an epic is like a collection of, smaller tasks. So an epic is a high level body of work, and it can also be referred to as a group of related user stories. So if you had, so for example, if you were doing a project, okay, so let's say you're trying to build a house, right? In order to build the house, you know that there'll be different components or different phases of work or different activities that will be carried out before that house will be seen to have been completed, right? Now, we can say that building the house can be the epic. Okay, building the house an epic, and then you can break it down to fitting the kitchen, maybe like leveling. I've even gone far, but things like the initial work, on the, in this country, they don't even, you hardly see people build their own houses. But imagine if you were to do that, you have to take care of the ground, the land on which you'll be building, the topsoil and whatever, and see if some of it is still good, or if you have to change it or something. You would talk about the layout, so all these are different bits, that you would consider. You talk about maybe fitting the kitchens, you talk about the toilets and bathrooms and all that, so all those are not little tasks, all those are different tasks that when you sum it up, it would give you the high level body of work. Now, so we said we're going to be looking at epics, features, and user stories. The reason I put them in that order is for a lot of people, they will break down the epic. They can break down an epic into some features and then further break the features down to a number of user stories. So if you're thinking about a hierarchy, the epic will be above, the features will come beneath, and then the user stories will follow. So features are, or a feature is a service or function of the product that delivers business value and fulfills the customer's needs. In fact, that's just big grammar. But what it means is that epics are broken down into features. Okay. A feature is a chunk of work from the epic. That was just what I tried to explain now. A deliverable that adds value and move towards completing the epic. In other words, as you're completing each feature, you are actually moving towards completing. And then user stories. So they're short, simple descriptions of a feature told from the perspective of the person who desires the new capability, usually a user or customer of the system. There's something that I'd like us to note. It's really important. It says told from the perspective of the person who desires the new capability. Okay, so bear that in mind. Bear that in mind. Please do not forget that. It's very important to remember that user stories are written from the perspective of the person who wants the new capability. What does that mean? As a business analyst, you might be writing a user story, but you're not necessarily the one using the system, right? Because in most cases, you're probably like working in a working as a consultant. You've been assigned to a project for a certain organization, you know, or business, and you're standing there. You know, traditionally, if you think about the role of a business analyst, you're trying to bridge that gap between IT and the organization. So the organization has a number of things they want to achieve, and they know that they need IT to do that. Your role is to go get and the requirements from the business, and then go speak to IT, you know, to see how they can translate those requirements to, how they can bring them to life, you know. So essentially, that's what you're doing as a business analyst. Now, when you are doing this, remember, I said you take the requirements, you're eliciting requirements from the business or the stakeholders. If you think about it, it means like you are a representative, you know, of that business when you're talking to IT or the people that will actually put in place the systems that the business desires. Okay, so if you are standing, or rather, if you are representing the business, it means that you're taking that perspective of the person, or you're standing in the stead of the business. So you are writing your user stories as if you were the one that wants to use that facility or the system or the functionality. Okay, so a user stories, oh, that's the typo there, apologies. A user story talks about how a particular bit of feature will offer something of value. Okay, now just to give us more information about the user stories, because our talk today is about user stories and acceptance criteria. Now, you might ask, why do we write user stories? There are a number of reasons, and the list is not comprehensive or exhaustive, but we can consider these as a good starting point. So the main aim of this is to put end users in the center of the conversation and capture product functionality from their perspective. Again, can you see how we're talking about user? If you even look at the name, it says user stories, isn't it? So it's focused on the user. Okay, and the main function is to put the user in the center of that conversation, right? So that when you capture requirements, you know, and eventually develop some functionality, it will be fit for purpose. Because what's the point developing something that you like and it's not really something that the end users have asked for? If you think, if you also want to look at it this way, you're being paid for to deliver, right? If you were to just go ahead and create a product or a feature or some functionality that you really like, it's shiny and new, you really like it, but when you present it, when you do a demo to the business, to the end users, they don't appreciate it. You know that there'll be issues in terms of like, why are we, engaging the services of these people? Okay, so essentially, the main aim of writing user stories is so that you can capture what the end users want. Okay, and another an additional point is that it helps developers to get a better understanding of what they are developing, who they are developing it for, and why they are developing that software or product or functionality. Okay, so again, please remember, from the user's perspective. Okay. Now, and this is just further illustration about the benefits of user stories. So we've got 3 points here. The focus on the user and their needs. Again, we've said that before. It's very important that you capture the requirements that the user, has actually specifically requested for, or else it's just an exercise in futility. The second one says it allows for equal amount of understanding and collaboration. Right. So when you've documented something and you've agreed with the stakeholders to say this is what we want to achieve, it gives you a reference point, doesn't it? And there's no shadow of doubt. If you think about it, when you're going for your refinement meetings, you are, explaining or sharing the information that you have received, to the development team, and then they are looking at what it would take to develop whatever functionality you have specified. Okay. At the end of the day, everybody will be in agreement or as to what they are developing. Okay, and that helps for collaboration and working better as a team. So there's transparency, you can refer to it at any time, and it just takes away any doubt. Okay, and then the last point is they drive creative solutions. The reason and this is on here is because like I said, if you were doing refinement, you'd have talked through your user story and everything. That would not be a point where the development team now looks critically, they now take a closer look at the story, that functionality. So they then start thinking about it. Like I know in my former project at work, when I read out the user story and explain this is what the stakeholder wants and everything, they now start so the developers, the testers, they start talking about it, and they're like, okay, in order to do this, do we have existing functionality, that we can, tweak to suit this new requirement, or do we have should it be a brand new system? Okay, if it's a brand new system, how's the layout going to be? How's the like the user interface, like what are the colors we want to be seen? So just by doing that, they're already thinking creatively. Okay, so they drive creative solutions. Now, a user story should be written with the invest principle in mind. So what is the invest principle? It's just INVEST, okay, as in the way you spell invest. INVEST. So if you note the first letters of the words, they are capitalized. Okay, so I is for independent, N is for negotiable, V is for valuable, E is for estimable, S is for small, and T is for testable. So that's the criteria for a user story to be referred to as a good user story. Now we'll take them in turn. What does it mean to be independent? That a good user story should be independent. What does being independent mean? It means that they should be written in a way that they can be developed and tested independently of others. Okay, and this allows for greater flexibility in the development process and dependencies. So let me break it down for us. Now, if you have written a story that depends on another one, can you see how there can be issues because there might be blockages if the other one is not completed, you'll not be able to move on to this one. Then so why are we even writing it and taking it into, remember we're talking about sprints and agile working and all that, like why are we even considering that if we're not able to work on that story? We shouldn't even be thinking about it. It should be somewhere in the backlog or something, and when there are no dependencies, we can pick up again. So a good user story should be independent, it should be standard, and not depending on. So it's just like saying, I'm just trying to give you a simple example. Okay, so in order to, I don't even know if this is a good example, but so in order to, okay, in order to drive my car to work, right, I have to put fuel. So if that was a user story, that I'm not saying it is, I'm just giving an example. It means that for me to even be able to drive the car, there has to be fuel in the car, right? So that means driving the car is dependent on having fuel in the car. So I'm just giving an example of how there can be dependencies. As you can see, the word independent means that it doesn't depend on any other thing. It's good to go, The next one says negotiable. What does that mean? They should be written to allow for negotiation between the development team and the customer. Okay, so what they're trying to say here is the user story is not the be all end all. It's not like you just come as a BA and read it out and say, this is what we're going for. That is exactly how it is. If you remember how I said on the last slide that it actually fosters creative thinking. Okay, negotiable, what that means is that if you say something, or if we look at the user story, like if the stakeholders and the development team look at the user story, they can question things on that story. Okay, they can say, okay, no, it's not robust enough. The scope is not wide enough. We need to add this. They can agree with the development team to even do that, or they can say this is not relevant, remove some portion of that story. Okay, so it's negotiable. So it gives an opportunity for open discussion. The third one is that it should be valuable. This means that user story should provide value to the end user. Again, can you see that the focus is always on the end user? There's no point developing something that will look nice and shiny. It will look fancy, but the end user has no need of it. Okay, so the value can be in the form of a new feature or an improvement to an existing feature or even a bug fix. Okay, so they've already given an example of how user stories can be presented. It might be a new feature or an improvement to something that's already there. Say, oh, we already have a website. We want to, improve on the overall look, the layout, the content, so you can break that down and start writing user stories relating to that. So, but whatever the case, it must be when that story is completed, it must be of value to the end user. Do you get? So, for example, to a website, what will be the value that will be added to the end user? They will see the website in a new design. They will have some increased maybe functionality, and the content will become maybe more relevant. I'm assuming, for example, now, like if some of the content was outdated, so they can now receive up to date. Many things that you can say, but is that when it's completed, it must be seen to have delivered value to the end user. Okay, so that's valuable. And then estimable. They should be written in a way that allows the development team to estimate the amount of effort required to complete them. So like I was saying during refinement, so in my place of work, let me say my former project, because my current project we're all BAs in the team. But my former project, right, I was the only BA with the development team. So when we go for refinement, it's usually a time where they now start to estimate the amount of effort that will go into, developing that feature or completing that piece of work. So there are different ways that they do estimation. I don't know if you've been told about, or if you've been shown how to do estimation, as in so yeah, I mean, they should be written in a way that they can be estimated. So it's clear enough that people can say, okay, this is the amount of effort I need to be able to produce this thing. And then the second to last point says small. They have to be small enough to be completed within a single sprint. Okay, so if you are trying to estimate a piece of work, or like estimate a user story, and then the numbers is getting too big, it suggests that that story needs to be split into two, because maybe two or more, even depending on how big it is, because essentially user stories are supposed to be completed within a sprint, so they have to be small. And then finally it says testable. Remember that there are always criteria, for you to determine whether you have successfully completed a project or a piece of work. Okay, now how would you know that you have successfully completed something if you cannot test it? So that's why I was saying that a user story must be testable. Okay, it helps to ensure that the story is complete and meets the customer's requirement. So when you're doing testing, for example, user acceptance testing, you're standing in the stead of the user, and you're trying to do the things that you would expect the user to do. Now, when you click on a button, for example, there's a particular way you expect the system to interact with you. Maybe when you click on the button, for example, like if it's a submit button, maybe when you click on it, all your details are captured, and you receive a message. If a message flashes on the screen to say thank you for submitting your documents. Okay, so if that's what you're expecting to see when you're doing your testing, you would click on submit, and then you'll be looking out to see what happens, how the system interacts. Okay, so user stories have to be written in a way that they can be tested. If not, the work will be for nothing, because how do you measure completeness? How do you agree that, okay, this job has been completed? So it's not like to infinity, right? There have to be a number of maybe milestones or things that will be ticked off to know that, okay, the job is completely done. So that's where the testing comes in. Now we're getting down to the format of a user story. So traditionally, this is the format: as a, I want, so that. As a, I want, so that. Okay. But if you look at it as a, you then define the type of user. I want, you now define what was the goal. So that, why do you want to do that thing? Okay, so as a, I want, so that. So when you're writing your user story, in fact, you can even just go ahead and write those 3 lines: as a, I want, so that, before you then start filling it in, because you already know the format it's going to take. Having said that, it doesn't mean that user stories are only written in that format, but let's stay here for a minute. So remember we said as a, I want, so that. Okay, now obviously you're not going to say as a online shopper, right? So obviously grammatically speaking, or for grammatical correctness, that would be an. But you get the gist. As an online shopper, I want to view a list of products so that I can select some items to purchase. So as a what? Online shopper. So that's what the type of user, isn't it? You see how we said you have to define the type of user. And then I want, what do you want to do? What's the goal? I want to view a list of products. And then finally, why? What's the reason? So that I can select some items to purchase. Okay, so let me first of all stop here and see, and just do a sense check. Like, are we understanding so far before I carry on?
Yes.
Okay, that's one person. And thanks for confirming.
Yes.
I just have a question. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. When I think one of the sessions we had, we're told that in.
Sorry, who's speaking? I can't see your name.
Sorry. Okay, my name is Jemmy Oyan BA.
Jemmy. Okay.
Yeah. And so one of the sessions we had, I think we're told that in writing a user story, you can make continuations in add, and you know, in some places, I think that's what was stated. So if you write as an online shopper, and maybe you add the and.
Okay, let me stop you there. I think you're referring to acceptance criteria.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, Jemmy, when we get there, ask your question again, or you might find out that your question has already been answered. Okay.
Okay.
But just taking note of that. Yeah. Okay.
So,
Sorry. Sorry, what was that? Okay, was somebody unmuted? All right. So where are we? As an online shopper, you've defined the type. You know, you've qualified the type of user. I want to view. So what do you want to do? What's the goal? And then why? What's the reason behind that? So that I can select some items to purchase. Okay. Right. Moving on. Okay. So yeah. So remember that we talked about, let me just take you back quickly. Remember that we talked about epics. We said these are like, let's just call it like the grandfather, right? And then your features are like the father, and then the user stories are like the son or the child. Okay. And just for hierarchy's sake, I just want us to understand. That's why I'm using that illustration. So how do this present? Let's have a look at this. Epic. So the epic, for example, here is to develop a website for Blue Sky Citadel. Now, if you think about it, in order to develop a website, what are the different components? You know, here this person has broken it down to landing page and authentication, right? There's no hard and fast rule, and there's no one that has a like a template to say, okay, if you're doing a website, this is how it must be done. So your features are going to be this, and this. No, remember we said user stories and creative thinking. Okay, now the whole thing we decide what is the epic and how many features are we going to break them into. You know what is really relevant. But for the case of this story, or rather for this illustration, the epic is what? To develop a website for Blue Sky Citadel. The features, there are two features here. The first one is the landing page and authentication. So can you see that epic has been broken down into the specific? Again, remember what we said about the epics and how I was telling you of management information, right? It says they're high level, okay? The second paragraph says they are used to describe more complex tasks. So can you see that now? That develop a website for Blue Sky Citadel. I mean, do you think you can complete the whole website in a very short period of time, especially if there's lots of information on that website and there are a lot of things that need tweaking and you need to get consent or approval for certain bits of the content? No. But you see, they've gone further down to break it down to, okay, what are the different aspects that we're going to consider? The first one was landing page. The second is authentication. Now, this feature, the landing page feature, has now further been broken down into 3 user stories. The first one is to create the landing page. The second is to create a header menu. And the third is to create a footer menu. Okay. In the same way, authentication has been split into 3 user stories. The first one is sign up, you've got login, and you've got password. So the password one is like, okay, maybe when you forget your password and all that. So do we get that? Please, I will need more than one person to confirm. So what I want is responses to say you understand, or if you have questions. So do we understand so far what I've been talking about?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So 2 people. The other people they are sleeping, Abby. We say what's the time? It's 8:33. So people are sleeping.
We get it.
You get it. Cool. Yeah. Okay, Lami Moyo. All right. Okay, cool. Moving on. I just want to check that we're not lost, just so, yeah. So where were we? Epics, features, and backlog. So some people refer to user stories, or some organizations refer to user stories as product backlog items. Okay. In fact, I think if you go on your Azure board, it will be showing there as a product backlog item. Okay. That's another way of calling it. So this is another example. And the reason I put this example is to show us that depending on the kind of project you are doing, your epic, for example, Jamie, I got your name right, isn't it, Jamie? You don't ask the question. So
Yes.
for example, Jamie can be working on one project, but his own project might be bigger than my project. And that might even mean that an epic in my own project might be a feature for his own. I don't know if you get what I mean. So there's no hard and fast rule to say, oh, developing a website is an epic. So everywhere you go in every organization, no. It depends on what you are doing. So if you go back, you see that this epic for this project is what? To develop a website for Blue Sky Citadel. And then they divided it, they split it into what? Landing page, authentication, so on and so forth. Now, for this epic, for that, this shows that this is a smaller project, isn't it? If the epic is to create a landing page, but whereas landing page was a feature here, can you see that? That's it here, landing page. But in this case, landing page is an epic, and they broke it down. That's okay. On the landing page, what are we expecting to see? We want the header menu and we want the footer menu. And they now broke it down. On the header menu, what are we expecting to see? Oh, we want the logo, the home, the home is it button or the icon, I will say it now. Yeah, a logo, the home, sign up, login, search about us. So all these are things that they want to be displayed on that header menu. And okay, for the footer menu, what do we want to see? You've broken it down. You want a contact us link, privacy policy, frequently asked question, social media handles, and all the likes. Okay. So these are more examples of user stories. And after we have a read of this, I'm going to ask us to start I would like us to have a try, of to have a go of telling the rest of the group an example, as in giving us examples of your own user stories. Okay. So as a new user, I want to sign up by creating a username and password so that the system can remember me and my data. Okay, that's a sign up user story. As a newly registered user, I want to receive an email confirmation when I register so that I will know that the registration process is complete. Okay, so I'm just giving us different examples of user stories. This is for login. There could be different user stories under login. For example, as a registered user, I want to log in with my username and password so that the system can authenticate me and I can trust it. Or as a registered user, I want to occasionally change my password so that I can keep it secure. Another login user story can be, as a registered user, I want to be able to request a new password so that I don't permanently lose access to my data if I forget my password. Okay, so these are examples of user stories. Now I'm going to throw it open to the group. Now I'm saying the group, but it's all individual, right? I'm going to give a scenario and then I would expect people to answer and come up with user stories. Okay, so okay, cooking jollof rice. Let's say we wanted to write a user story for cooking jollof rice. Can anybody have a go? Just make something up, like I'm not giving any specific scenario, but what kind of user story would you write, for example, to say you want to cook jollof rice? I'm just starting from something simple and relatable. Can anyone try and have a go? Just remember the format as a I want to, so the as a you would define who are you in relation to that jollof rice. Do you get what I mean? And what do you want to do and why do you want to do it? Can anyone, does anybody want to give it a shot? Anybody?
Hi, so I'll go. This is
Hi.
Oinko.
Sorry, who?
Hi, okay, Oinko.
Oyinko. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just trying. So
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
say as a chef,
Mm-hmm.
I would want to prepare the pepper sauce first and add all of the ingredients, or say tomatoes or the spices,
Mm-hmm.
so that the seasoning doesn't get salty, or the food doesn't get burnt, or the jollof rice doesn't end up getting bad or something.
Yeah, yeah. So you see that you already understand the general gist. I think what you're struggling with is you're trying to come up with a specific,
Yes.
scenario, but you
Yeah.
get the gist. As
Yeah.
so you've defined the kind of user. You said a chef. Brilliant. What do you want to do? It can be 1,001 things. I mean, I left it open-ended. I said jollof rice. So it's up to you. So what you've done is you've started from the beginning to say, oh, I want to prepare pepper sauce for my jollof rice. So as a chef, I want to prepare pepper sauce for my jollof rice, so that that so that can be anything. It depends on what you want to do, if you get what I mean. So I didn't even restrict you guys, right? So it could be for different reasons, so that I have a nice tasty I don't know, sauce for my jollof rice, or so that I save time. Or you can even say, like, as a chef, I'm trying to use your sauce thinking now. We're trying to make it up just now, isn't it? As a chef, I want to prepare my pepper sauce. Maybe I want to prepare my pepper sauce in advance. I want to prepare my pepper sauce for jollof rice in advance, so that the total time to make the jollof rice will be cut down. Do you get? I've just made that up on the spot. Okay, but thank you and well done, Oyinko. Does anybody want to have a go?
Yes, can I have a go?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I say, as a mom, I want to
Mhm.
learn how to cook jollof rice so
Mhm.
that I can prepare a delicious African dish for my family.
Oh wow, that's nice. So who was that?
It's Temi.
Timmy. Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's fab. You know what we're doing? We're making it up, but
Mhm.
we're just trying to practice it so that it registers in our head. Like, as so you've defined the user. You said a mom,
Mhm.
and you want to learn. You see,
Yeah.
we're still talking about jollof rice,
Yeah.
because the way you see how I gave the illustration of login. There's so many different scenarios for login. Some people maybe they are first time users. They want to no, they're registered users. They want to log in. For some people, they want to request a new password. There's so many different scenarios under the login. So in the same way, when I said jollof rice, I kept it open so that we can come up with different scenarios. So you've defined the kind of user. As a mom, what do you want to do? What's the goal? You want to learn how to, cook jollof rice. Why? Why do you want to do that? What's the reason? So that I can make delicious meals for my children, right? Perfect. And well done for that. So Moyo, I can see your message in the chat. Let's look at it. As a jollof eater. So you're the eater. Okay. All right. That you've defined the user. That's good. As a jollof eater, what do you want to do? I want to be able to eat multiple proteins, and then so that I can get my daily dietary intake. Brilliant. Brilliant. And well done for that. So what we're trying to do here is just practice, using that. It sounds so simple, right? But as time goes on, you see that a lot of thought goes into writing a user story. So that's why I'm trying to encourage us to participate. This is the place where you can make your mistakes. Nobody's going to judge you for making mistakes, right? You can make a mistake so that you can get corrected, and then so that when you're out there speaking, you can talk confidently. So well done, Moyo, Temi, Oyinko, and who else tried again? So can we have a few people, any other person willing to give it a shot? Nobody.
I'm sorry.
So okay, so who's that?
Yemi?
Yemi. Hi. Okay, go for it.
Okay. As a chef, I would like to get the seasoning for my recipe so that my customers, so that I can be satisfied.
So you said as a chef, you want to what? Get the, did you mean to say
Season.
get the, okay, say that, let me let you say that. So you say as a chef, I
I
want
would like
to,
to, I would like,
no,
I
no, no,
want to,
don't say I would like to. So we're keeping to the format, okay? Do you get what I mean? So you're still
yes,
saying the same thing essentially, but we're just trying to keep to the format, right? So as a chef, I want to,
get the seasoning for my recipe
okay,
so that I can make the best jollof rice.
okay. So did you mean to say get the recipe for your season or get the seasoning for your recipe?
The
Or is it
seasoning,
the seasoning for your recipe? Okay, all right. So that you can make what? Did you say the best?
the best jollof
Did you say
rice.
how we know it's the best one?
In town, the best jollof rice in town.
The best jollof rice in town. Okay, well done. So what you've done is you've defined the type of user, you've stated the goal, and then the end, how would I put it now? What value is that action going to result in? Okay, so well done for that. Anybody, one more person, one or two, and we can move on. It's for your own good though. If you are holding back or shying away from talking here, it will be, I promise you, and it's not even, I'm not even lying. If you are struggling to speak up here and you're shying away from it, it will be difficult, to go out there and talk. Yeah, as a business analyst, you cannot shy away from talking, as in it's your, in fact, it's your superpower, talking. So who wants to go now?
Can I go?
Yeah, so who's speaking?
My name's Adela.
Adiola, okay, go for it.
Okay, so as a lover of rice, I want to be able to learn how to mix the right jollof rice sauce so I can make a tasty meal.
Or the best one in town. Okay, cool. So again, you've defined the kind of user, what the user wants to do, and why. So well done for that, Adela. Okay, so we shall move on. So we've talked about user stories, right? I remember that at the start I said this is will I say a lecture now, or tutorial on user stories and acceptance criteria. Now, your user story is not complete until you have your acceptance criteria. Why is this? Maybe if we look at the definition of the acceptance criteria, we'll understand why that's the case. So the acceptance criteria are the conditions that the software product must meet to be accepted by a user, a customer, or other system. It also forms the basis for the acceptance testing stage. Another definition. Your acceptance criteria, these are the predefined requirements that must be met. Sorry, another typo. That must be met, taking all possible scenarios into account to consider a user story to be finished. Okay, let me just tell you in simple English, right? Okay, let me break it down for us. Your acceptance criteria, these are just the conditions that have to be met. So remember how we're saying that you'll be testing and all of that. Okay, so this will form the basis of testing. What does that mean? It shows you how, remember I was talking about how if you want to test, for example, you're doing user acceptance testing and you go on maybe a website or a software application, and then you're like, okay, I would like to be able to log in, create a record, delete the record, modify it, and then all that. Now you say, okay, for me to even get access to the system, I have to log in. When you log in, and click submit or enter, you expect to have access into the system, isn't it? As a user or maybe as a BA, if you're doing user acceptance testing, what's going to happen when you go in there? The first thing on your list is when I click on submit, I should immediately gain access into that portal or the platform or that software application. You understand? So there's an expectation, right? When you now click on enter, or you've put in your details and everything, click on enter. If it takes you there, what are you going to do? It has passed that step, isn't it? That's what testing is all about, essentially. You have a list of conditions, okay? And when you have been able to successfully tick all those conditions, then it can be said that the user story is completed. Do we understand that now? Can I get one or two people to just confirm, please? Do you understand what the acceptance criteria is?
Yes.
Take that
Okay,
again,
cool.
please.
All right. Sorry?
Please, can you take that again?
That's fine. So all this here, like this is like big grammar, right? But let's break it down. Okay. Now, your acceptance criteria, there are a list of conditions that have to be met for us to consider that a user story has been completely done. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, the login user story. The login user, or no. Let's go back to the jollof rice user story, right? If you say, as a chef, I want to I want to use what was that woman that cooks on YouTube? Or what's her name? I forgot. Sisi, thank you very much. Who is that person? You like?
Akila.
Okay, so as a chef, well, if you're a chef, you should have your own recipe. As a lover of jollof rice, I want to I want to cook. No, I don't want to say. I want to use Sisi Yemi's recipe. Okay, as a lover of jollof rice, or maybe as a new chef, I want to use Sisi Yemi's jollof recipe, or I want to refer to Sisi Yemi's jollof recipe so that I can make a party jollof. I've just made that up, right? Okay. Now, I've said that's my user story. How do I know that it's complete? Because, for example, okay, maybe the context I'm using is it might be a bit tricky to explain, because when we're talking about user stories, it's not really, I mean, you can write user story for pretty much anything. We're talking of jollof here, but we are dealing with like organizations and everything. How do you know that that piece of work has been completed? It's just like a checklist. Oh, I think I won't have a better, yeah, this is what I was looking for. Okay. Yeah, this will help us. Acceptance criteria could also be written as a set of statements. Okay. A list of pass or fail or yes or no statements that will mark the functionality as complete. I think this is a very clear definition. It's just like saying you have a checklist, with tick boxes, and you're saying, did she buy Sisi Yemi's did she buy Sisi Yemi's manual, what do you call it now? Online manual or recipe, whatever. Yes, you take that one. Okay. Did she successfully cook the rice? Yes. As in, so it's just a number of steps, right? Or tasks or statements that you're expecting that they've either been completed or they haven't been completed. If they have all been completed, you can now mark it off as complete, done, right? So it's always a reference point, because when you're saying you've completed a job, am I going to take your word for it? That oh, we've developed the software application. That's fine. It's to pay us our money so that we can go back to our employer. Doesn't work like that. When you say, oh yeah, you've developed, in fact, you'll be showing the organization that this is what you've done. So in order to show them, that software application must have passed through a number of tests. And that's where the acceptance criteria comes in, okay? They are the conditions that must be met, okay, before the customer can say, okay, yes, it is complete. If you make the jollof rice and you didn't put salt in it or seasoning, except where maybe you're doing it for health reasons, but let's assume you normally, the end user normally eats with salt or seasoning powder or whatever, and at the end of the day, there's no salt in it and no seasoning powder. Can you mark it off as complete? No, you can't. That's a condition, as in, because why would you be giving me jollof rice without salt or seasoning? Do you get what I mean now? Like, so there are statements or conditions that must be met, all right, before we can all agree that the user story has been fully completed. And on this next page, you can see the format of the acceptance criteria. Apologies. Was he Jemmy? Jemmy? Hey, I think I got your name right, so Jemmy. Were you the one
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I was. Yeah, thanks.
I got it right, because this my memory sometimes can be funny. Okay, so you were the one that was talking about this, right? Okay, so I will show you some others, because this is like the most basic form of your acceptance criteria. Okay, I know you were mentioning things like and all that. You will see that in subsequent pages. Now, this is your basic format, and it's called what? The Gherkin syntax. Given, when, then. Remember, our user story has the format of as a, I want, so that. Now, for your acceptance criteria, the format is what? Given, when, then. Or rather, if you are using the Gherkin syntax, this is the format. But remember that I said, I think I skipped this and came here. It could also be a set of statements, okay? A list of pass or fail or yes or no statements that will mark the functionality as complete. Let me give you a good example. The former project I was working on, I was, like I said, the only BA in the development team. It was a proper development team. So I was speaking with the stakeholders and everything, doing requirement solicitation, coming back to the team. We're doing a refinement, sprint planning, and all that. Okay. For the acceptance criteria in that team, we will say given I am an investment analyst, when I given I'm an investment analyst and I'm on this blah 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 portal, when I click on that, then I am redirected to that. Okay, so when they're testing it, they will check, okay, I'm an investment analyst, and you're on the portal, fine. Or yeah, they would go one by one, giving this and this, when that, then that, okay, and they would check it. Now, so that was the format it was written. We were using Gherkin syntax then. Now my team is made up of only BAs, because we don't even do all the little stories like user story. We end up with epics. Okay, we don't do any development, because from the work we produce, that's how different suppliers and service providers go and come up with their own user stories and all whatnot. But we don't even go to that level. What we pretty much do is stakeholder engagement, trying to find out what is needed and then drafting this to high-level epics. Okay, now in a team of BAs, our acceptance criteria are really different to the other one I described for you, like the Gherkin syntax, where you say given, when, then. What we do is we have a list of statements, okay? So we can say landing page has been created, or Confluence page has been created. They will put, if you've completed it, you put a tick box there, okay? Next one, relevant information has been uploaded on or has been updated on Confluence page. There will be you can tick it. So a list of then they even go as far as saying the work has been peer reviewed by another BA. If so, you will pass on the work, somebody will review it, and then when they bring it back, you can tick that one off. Okay. Proposal has been sent for authorization. You put a box there, yes or no. Do you get? So acceptance criteria could be in this format, given, when, then, or they could be in the form of statements. Okay, yes or no, pass or fail. Okay, and if everything is showing as pass, that means it's all complete. Okay, now this is where it starts to make more sense. Remember, I said that your user story is not complete until you have your acceptance criteria. Remember, I said that. Okay, so I've given an example. So this is for a new user. Okay, this is for a new user trying to create their password. So think about it like a new user. If you go on if you go on an online platform that you've never really, well, you probably have gone there a number of times, but you're not really registered. So in a sense, you are a new user or an unregistered user, right? So as a new, in this case, the user story is this. As a new user, I want to register by creating a new username and password so that the system can remember me and my data. That's fine, right? Okay. Now, what are the conditions that must be met for one to be able to say that I have successfully registered? I hope I get following. Now, acceptance criteria. So these are now the steps that must happen for me to now say that user story is completed. So the acceptance criteria will always back or support the user story. Now, think about the journey as a user. So it says what? Giving. We said giving when then, right? Jamie, you can see that there's an and here. In fact, some user stories, I mean, some acceptance criteria, they can be funny. Like you see giving and when and then and. In fact, years ago, I used to kind of bother myself about, should and be before when, or should it be after when, or whatever. And then I now realized that different organizations apply this differently. So there's no hard and fast rule. It's all, at the end of the day, it's all down to what your team agrees to do. Okay. So now the set of conditions that must be met for me to be able to say to be able to say that I have successfully registered. Now, the first step is that given that I'm a new user, that means this process we're talking about, if you're a registered user, please don't even come here because these conditions are not for you. Do you get what I mean? So are you a new user? Yes. Okay, tick. That's fine. And I navigate to the sign up page. So I want to test that whatever it is they created is going to work for me. So I go to the sign up page. When I enter my username and password, then I am successfully registered and able to log in with my chosen credential. In fact, if you want to make this thing more complete, you can say, then I am successfully. But how do you know you're successfully registered? Sometimes you might see a message, isn't it, that says your registration is complete, or thank you for registering with blah 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 blah. Or sometimes you will see an email sent to you, isn't it? A personal email. So given that I'm a new user and I navigate to the sign up page, when I enter my username and password, then I'm successfully registered and able to log in with my chosen credentials. Okay, right. Let's do this. Is even more detailed. Now, this user story is for a registered user. So this person is no longer a new user, right? And this scenario is that we want to check that the password and username that you registered with, you want to check that the system remembers it and can authenticate it. So as a registered user, I want to log in with my username and password so that the system can authenticate me and I can trust it. Now, what are the set of conditions that must be met? Given that I'm a registered user and logged out, okay? Because if you are still logged in, then does that apply? Because we're saying we want to log in. Do we get the gist? So given that I'm a registered user and logged out, and I navigate to the login page, and I enter my username, and I enter, and I enter an incorrect password. When I click on login, what happens? Then login fails with an error message stating that the username or password is incorrect. I'm hoping we understand that. Let me give another scenario for this same user story. This one was for incorrect password, isn't it? Why don't we do a scenario for correct password? We'll just change a few bits. Given that I'm a registered user and logged out, and I navigate to the login page, and I enter my username, and I enter a correct password, right? When I click on login, then login is successful, and a message stating that the login is successful is displayed. Did you understand what I just did?
I have a question, sir. I've been raising
Yeah,
my.
go on.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
Okay,
then I
let's
just
have your question.
yes, I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
So I know the bit where you said, and I enter an incorrect password. So does it have to be when? Does it have to start with when? What if you write something like in the event of failure of one or more validation system shall, display inline error messages?
Yeah.
Does it have to start with, and I enter an incorrect password? So obviously when you enter an incorrect password, is the event of failure of one or more validation. So does it have to go with when? So you can't use another statement. It has to go with this.
Yeah. Okay.
Given and then when.
Yeah. So remember I said that there are different ways you can write your acceptance criteria, right?
Yeah.
So this is purely Gherkin syntax. Okay. The given when then one, as in, and it's sprinkled with some ands and everything. Okay. So this is purely using Gherkin syntax.
Right.
Okay. Now what you just said is an example of a statement. Okay.
Right.
So you see how I was saying that sometimes you can have statements. Say, okay, in the event of this happens, you can either say pass or fail. Do you get? So yeah, but like if you're going for interviews and things like that, interviewers will want to know if you're aware of the Gherkin syntax because it's quite popular. Okay, it's quite popular. So but at the end of the day, when you're working in a team, it's whatever that team has decided. Like they usually have ways of working. If you join a team, maybe you're going there after maybe the previous BA left or whatever, they will have ways of working, and things that they refer to. It will show you how long is your sprint, and how do you do sprint planning, how do you do this, how do you do that. Okay, so you refer to those documents to know how those documents will shape the way you interact and work within that team. So if we're talking about Gherkin syntax, then yes, it has to be strictly, the given when then format. But when I say strictly, I use that word loosely as well, in the sense that this is a given when then arrangement, but you see that there are lots of ands in between and wherever, just whatever makes logical sense to you, you kind of arrange the ands in that order. Okay, so it's just for our awareness that Gherkin syntax is not the only way to present your acceptance criteria. Is that okay? Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, no worries. All right, so this is another.
Sorry, my hand was
Oh,
up.
sorry, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, I know
carry on.
you can say that. I apologize.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Carry on.
So I was just thinking, I hope I pronounce it right. The Gherkin syntax
Yeah.
and statement, is there a preferred way of writing your acceptance criteria, or you can go with the statement? Because from what I've seen and what I've done just recently, I use the statement. So
Okay.
is there something that says we are partial to Gherkin syntax, or
Okay.
we should just keep the one that we are was comfortable with?
Statement. Yeah. Okay, I have a question for you. So you said that the one that you used recently, where did you use that?
Okay. The BAs were doing a draft of our what's it called, epic
Okay.
user
Okay.
stories. So
All right.
the acceptance criteria part, we use statements. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
All right. So now I will say this. I'm going to whatever I'm going to say. I mean, it's not set in stone. Okay, but like I was saying before, the Gherkin syntax is quite popular, and that's what a lot of people use. However, you can still use statements, right? But do you remember that I said that when you start working in a place, you want to check their ways of working, you want to see what is obtainable there, you want to see, what's in line with the fabric of that organization so that you fall in line. Okay, so I can tell you that in Blue Sky, we would use the Gherkin syntax, because Gherkin syntax is quite it's quite easy to follow, because they're just a series of steps, one after the other. It depends on the kind of project you're then working on. For example, I was working on a data project. It was just so different to your usual type of project, so we couldn't be saying given when then. We're just saying SQL blah 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 has been this that whatever has been uploaded. That was the acceptance criteria. Okay, but again, it all depends on where you find yourself and what is obtainable there. So it's not like there's a preference of one to the other, but I can tell you confidently that in Blue Sky, you'll be expected to use giving when then. But it's just good to be aware that that's not just the only way of writing your acceptance criteria. So in answer to your question, really, you wouldn't really be going with what's convenient for yourself. Okay, you'll be going with what the organization is doing, except you want to go and make like an overhaul of the place, like to say, oh, that's what we're doing, but I have this proposal and so on and so forth. But that's a different issue entirely, you get. So you would essentially stick to the Gherkin syntax, or else, except you've been told otherwise. So like when I joined this new project, I was just observing for like 1 to 2 weeks, just as in, I mean, it's not like I was not making contributions and everything, but what I mean is that you will just be trying to gather everything, every information you can find, to soak it up like a sponge. Like, okay, what are they doing? How do they do it? In fact, how do they even pronounce this thing? Like how they might have abbreviations, and there are already ways that they pronounce it. You don't want to now be sounding so different because you just join, little things that form, like I said, the fabric of that either organization or the team or whatever. Okay, so does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so there's really no preference, but then you want to go with what the organization that you're working with does.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I can take more questions at this point, because this is the end of user stories and acceptance criteria. So please, feel free to ask any questions you have relating to user stories, acceptance criteria, epics, features, and whatnot. The floor is open. Or even general questions, like
if anybody is not going, I'll just go one more time.
That's fine.
Okay. So because I was doing some review and in some I think it's a backlog, or I didn't see a feature there. I saw epic, and then next was the user story and task and acceptance criteria. So
yeah,
I was a bit confused when I saw features.
Okay, that question you asked is a very good question, and that shows that you've been doing a lot of research. Okay, remember again, what I mentioned about what the organization does. Okay, now the other project I was working on with a different client, we have epics. We don't have features. We just have epics and user stories. And when I joined, I started working with them. I was like, okay. But that's what they do. Epics, so they don't have epics, features, user stories. You understand? So so in other words, those things that they call it epics, there will be features in some other places, isn't it? So they just have epics and user stories. Now, this new project I'm working on, we only end with epics. We don't even go, we just do epics and acceptance criteria. So in fact, we don't even write user stories. Do you get? We just put the epic, the high level, download patient record from GP, for example. And then we now put the acceptance criteria, But the acceptance criteria are even just statements. So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of these things are not set in stone. It is what is agreeable and acceptable by that team that works. Okay. So where you're seeing in epics, there's no features, then you're seeing maybe product backlog items, you're not seeing tasks and all that. I think you were looking at the Azure board. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Sometimes it might even be the way that the board has been set up and it's not showing features and all that, but it's nothing to even worry your head about. It all depends on what is obtainable in that organization. Does that answer your question?
Very much. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right then. Okay. Any questions? You can ask me general ones as well. I mean, we're relating to business analysis anyway.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Okay. How many user stories can you write? Can you get out of like features, is it?
The feature, yeah.
Yeah.
The answer is how will I put the answer for you?
Does it
There's
depend
no
on
answer. Yeah. Say what you were saying. No, sorry, carry on. You said
okay. Does it depend on the requirements?
You've actually answered your question. You remember that we said that some features are even smaller than some. So for some people, for some projects, an epic in project A is like a feature in project B, depending on the complexity of that project. Okay. So there's no way to determine like, oh, for epics, you can only have 5 features, and for each features you can have 3. No, you can have 3 user stories. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay. You come up with your user stories as per the customer requirements. Requirements. And you see, so then you then group them to say, okay, all these ones are for all these are related. These user stories are related, so they form part of. So let me take you back to. So sometimes you might even have written all the story before you now say, okay, this will form this is epic. So for example, you remember that I said that backlog item is also user story. Remember? Okay. So you might have written a story for logo, home, site, login, search, about us. But at the end of the day, all these are features that are on, or rather, these are components that will be displayed on the header menu, isn't it? So you categorize them and say header menu. Now, this feature has what 6 user stories underneath it, right?
Yeah.
Do you know that it can have up to 10 or 15 or 20, depending on how big the feature is? Again, was it Jamie that said he has seen that in some places there's no feature? Do you get? So imagine if you scrap that header menu. Let's imagine that there was no feature, this column here. Let's imagine it wasn't there. That means we have what? Epic and user story. Do you know what's going to happen? That epic is going to give birth to how many user stories? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You understand?
Yeah.
So,
okay. Can we now write just one user story for the header? I'll now list all this bit under one user story, or we have to write each one.
So you see, it's really up to your, it's really your preference and what developers are fine with. So because you can say user story is your header menu, say I want to be able to see, so you can okay, let's even do that kind of exercise, right? So say for the header, what will your user story be? So you remember, okay, let's do this. Is a good one to I wish I had. Let me see if I can get a Word document and then I can share it, and so that as I'm typing, we can see it. This was supposed to be for 2 hours, but because I'm not doing the other Azure one, we now kind of have more time. But we can quickly look at this. Let me open a Word document so that if I'm typing, you can see what I'm typing, and then we can create it together. Okay, so don't want an account. So where's my Word? Oh no, that's not what I want. Okay, let me use Excel instead. All right, so what did we even say just now? It was that feature we're looking at.
Yeah, the feature that if you can put everything under one user story. Yeah.
Okay, so what was that feature again? It was
the header.
Header.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me share. Where's the Excel? All right. So, can you see my screen?
Yes.
You can see the Excel spreadsheet, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's say. So we're looking at header, isn't it?
Header, yeah.
We were saying that this user story is the user story is the header.
Yeah.
Let me do this user story, right? And then I'll move to the next and I say header. Okay.
Header.
All right. So we want to say, so what you were saying is, do you have to write a user story for every single one? For logo, can anybody remember what we're saying? Logo,
logo, home,
Home,
sign up,
log
search, about us.
and
some people have
login.
taken screenshot of my this thing. Hey,
No, taking
But
notes.
some of us just have that memory.
Sign up.
sign up. Okay.
Search.
Login
Okay.
doesn't log in there. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I think
search.
there was search as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
search.
and about us.
No, about us was for the footer. I remember that one because I've worked on that project for years. I think there's even like a favorite. I don't think I put that here, but this. But you know what? Let's even stop at this, okay? No, because I will not even have peace. Oh yeah, there was about us. Sorry.
us.
Apologies.
The other, yeah.
Apologies.
That's all right.
Okay, so I'm gonna share again. Share my Excel. Right. Yeah, about us was there. You know why I kind of, because about us sometimes it's at the bottom.
Bottom, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all up to the. So now, do you know? No, this is not even the user story. Delete that one. So these are the user stories.
User story.
And then this was like a feature, or call it whatever, maybe Epic. I don't know.
Epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can call it whatever. Let's not even be bothered about that. But this is our focus now. So for this feature of the header, you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 user stories, right? To say, oh, let me give you an example of the user story. That's the reason I even came here now. So let me give you an example of a user story for this logo, for example, now. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Does it add above or below? Okay. One more. Okay. So right. Okay. So logo, right? So remember we said we write these things from the user's point of view, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's say as a what now? As a user, maybe
visiting
of the blah 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 website. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like my brain is tired right now. I cannot be coming up with any name. Okay. As a user of the website, I want. What do you want in relation to
the logo, right?
Let's come up with something, because I want to show us how sometimes you can simplify. You can make things simple for yourself by just. So let me just help. I want to be able
to see the logo.
Able to
See the
logo. Blue sky, for example. Logo. Why do we want to view it?
So that
why do we want to view a logo? Why? So that what?
I can so that I can confirm the authenticity of
I know what you want to say. And you're thinking of what I want to say.
Oh, okay.
See what you're trying to say. So that you know you're on the right place, isn't it?
The right page, yeah.
But clap for yourself. So that I know.
That I'm on the right.
Or you know what? Let me even make this thing more fancy. I want to view. No. That one's over Sabi that I'm doing now. Don't worry. So that I know I am on the Blue Sky website. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's one way of putting it. Now we can now do our. Let's do. In fact, this is not the user story. This is the user story. So this is the logo user story, if you get what I mean. But this is the user story. If you get, I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. This user story is it will have a title. It will have a title.
The logo will be the future. The logo, home, sign up, login, search. Would that be the future?
No. This is we are writing a user story for logo.
For
The
logo.
title of that user story will be logo. So have you seen your Azure board, you know, like where you put your user stories?
Yes, but I don't think it's ready. It's readily set.
It's ready. It's
not- it's-
ready.
Okay, it's ready now. Okay.
Okay. So when you go there, you will see, I think, is it description?
Description.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we'll see description.
Yeah, so that's where you put the title. Okay. So for some, it will just be like, maybe, you know what, let's even make this a nicer, it will be, say, view logo. Do you get? You would
Okay.
just say logo.
Yeah, logo, view
Like
logo.
in the real sense of it, you will say view logo. Let me make
Mm.
this in bold so that we know that that's the title. Okay. Now, so this will be your user story. Mhm. I hope I'm not confusing people more. I just want to show you how sometimes the simpler ways of doing these things, because that will help you when you start creating your stories. And then so this one we have a very simple Gherkin syntax one, because view logo, that's the simplest thing to do in this planet. Okay, so the acceptance criteria.
Yeah.
I think if we do this exercise, it will help us better to see how these things can be. So the acceptance criteria, how will it be?
Given I'm a user on the Blue Sky website, when I navigate,
Okay, now let me simplify for you. You know what? This is so simple that it's difficult. I don't know if I let me tell you why. There are not many steps that you need to do for you to see the logo. Do you get?
this is it here.
So you're not navigating. All you have done is landed on that
Page.
on that homepage, and you just immediately see
See
the logo. Okay, so you're not navigating. Navigating will be a case of when you're on the landing page, or you're on one page, and you now move from that page to another page. Do you get?
Okay.
So yeah, so this one, just say
When
it's
I'm
so
on the
simple
landing
that
page.
it's sorry, when I am
On the landing page.
Landing page. Then I should be able to view
The
yeah.
logo.
the Blue Sky logo.
Exactly. All right. So this is such a simple thing. Now you'll find that when you're writing like user stories, you might have to put in additional information. Okay. So this is now where the trick is. Well, for the purpose of Blue Sky and the training you're doing, I know when you start creating all these things, you will have to write a user story each for view logo, view home, sign up, Do you get? Now, but there's so many ways to go about it. If you are working in an organization, it will seem like it's a waste of time, right?
Yeah.
But here in Blue Sky, you will be asked to do it that way because it will further, you know, like what's the word? Well, by usage, you now gain mastery of it, right? But that's what I'm looking for. Like it will further, is it ingrain or what's the word now? Like it will reinforce your learning. When you keep writing it, you're getting more confident writing those stories, okay? But another way to write this one now would have been there will be a user story for. So if we're doing this, you will now write a story for view logo, home, sign up, login, and all that, right? Now, there's another user story you can write that is all encompassing. That user story will probably be header. And now, you might find out that you're working on the same project with another team, but they are having theirs in a different layout, like, oh, they've created. Don't now feel like, oh, you're doing something wrong. And that's why I'm trying to show you this. Now, somebody else can write header menu. okay, as their own user story. They will not say what? As a what? So it will almost be the same.
Yeah, as a user
Mm.
of
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's actually
want-
good. I say, where am I even? Okay. So okay. What do you want?
I want to be able to view the header menu. Then we have to list it, isn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, you're jumping the gun.
Okay.
so
So
that what?
I know that I
Mhm.
am on the Blue Sky website.
Yeah, I mean, you can. I suppose you can even do that. It's not. There's
Yeah.
no. Let's just keep it simple. I mean, right.
Okay.
So this is where we're going now.
Yeah.
Now you've done that, right?
Hmm.
What will your acceptance criteria be?
Given that I'm a user
Mm-hmm.
on the Blue Sky website,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm on the landing page
Mm-hmm.
and I should
Right?
be able to view the menu header, yeah. The
Head-
header menu.
header
The header menu. Yeah. But where are we going to list it?
Just a second. Just a second. Now. Mhm. Delete all this because I don't even want any confusion. Just so I can. Okay, right. So these are two user stories, right?
Mhm.
But guess what? We know that this second one,
Yeah.
this is number 2. This is number 1. Ah, where did that one go to? Don't like that behavior. Come back here. And this one come this way. Back if I had my way, I would have centralized it. Okay. Right. So we've got the view logo and header menu. But guess what? We know that in that header menu, that story, there are two things. I'll give you the pros and the cons. But let's finish what I was trying to say. Okay. So now you know I said that you can have additional menu information. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Do you know that there, I don't know if they've mentioned artifacts to you, things like wireframe.
Yeah, wireframe, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can say the header menu, this is how you can cheat. The header menu should contain
Okay.
the following I don't know what I would say. Is it components or links or yeah? I don't know.
Features.
I don't know feature.
No, is it icons or features? Yeah, it's features, but I don't want to use features so that it will not
Features.
confuse us.
Okay.
Okay, icons then.
Buttons.
Oh, buttons.
Yeah,
They
thank
have
you.
all those radio
Thank
like
you.
buttons and stuff.
The following buttons as displayed. In fact, let's just say the following buttons. Then
Yeah.
what we now do? Logo.
Okay.
Tell me. Sign up.
Sign up, search,
Login.
search,
About
us. Yeah.
blah 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 blah.
Yep.
So that might be my number 1, and then another formula. Okay, then the second one will be fact, don't annoy me. I think I should be able to put numbers now. They really give me formula again. Okay, so the second information, I'll say the header menu. In fact, header menu to be designed as per the wireframe below.
Okay.
You will now go and no, not even below. Yeah, if you can attach a document or wherever you kept it, if it's in an attachment, whatever, sometimes it might be content. You've put the content in a Word document, but then you attach it. So you now say content of the blah, 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 or see content in the attachment. Do you get?
Okay.
So what have we just done here now? We have simplified. So instead of writing 6 stories of logo, sign up, log in, blah, 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 blah. We've just put everything in one.
Yeah.
But what do we use to overcome that challenge? We use a wireframe.
Wireframe.
Now, wireframe, it means the developers will just copy it like for like. Okay. So now see let's go to pros and cons, right? Remember we're saying that for the invest thinking criteria, that the stories have to be small enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be able to be completed within one sprint. Can you see any problem or potential problem with this one? With number 2? Okay, let me help.
Really?
Okay, that's fine. So do you know what we've done? We've incorporated a number of other is it features or buttons or whatever?
Yeah,
into one. Now we might get to okay, let me do the pros here for you. Okay. What are the pros? Story, one story, well, I'm tired. One story encompasses several I don't know, several what functionalities, or I don't know. But you get what I mean. Now, one major thing here that might be an issue is that size of the story. Or story might be too big. Okay. Too big to go into one sprint. Now, this is in itself, it's not such a big problem. It's not even a problem because sometimes I found out that sometimes I've written stories and I've gone into refinement with the rest of my team, and the developers look at it and say, they're discussing with the testers, and it seems like the story has taken on a life of its own. You get like, oh, in order to do this one, we have to do this one. Yeah. That means we have to check it. So I'm typing as they're telling me. A lot of these refinement meetings, right? Because you are a BA, right? So it's usually the developers and testers that know the technicalities beneath, going oh God, my brain is tired. They know in the back end, or behind the scene. They are the ones that know the technicalities and all the things that happen behind the scene. That's what I'm looking for. You might not know you're a BA. All you know is that the customer said they want to click on this button, and when they click on it, they will see this one. Then they don't know, say, oh, when he clicks on it, it sends an event to, or it creates an event, and that event goes to something in the back end. When the other system receives that one, it filters through blah 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 blah, and checks through the validation blah 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 blah, and returns a result or a report. When that, are you seeing all the things that I'm saying? Like, but what did I tell them? I said, I want to click on this button and see that thing. You get? But they know the inner workings. They know that when that click can trigger a number of events. You understand? So by the time the NASA said, oh, yeah. Oh, have you forgotten that there's one restriction there? Oh, we'll have to override it. Oh, in order to override it, we need to get authorization from something. Are you saying that the thing is taking a life of its own, as in it has just morphed into something different? What I went in there with, as in, please, I want to click on this and get this. You will not say that, oh, there's so many reports, authorization, steps, events, approvals, exception reports, blah blah blah. It's all things I'm listening. All these things I'm telling you are things I've heard before, even though I don't even know how they all work, because it's not my job to know how they all work. But then they will not say, that's a lot. And then somebody will just be like, you sure this can be, are you sure we can do this in one? I said, no, it's too big, it's too big. When a story, I don't know if they've taught people about estimation. We are estimating, and it goes in, I think you have 1, 2, 5. No, sorry, 1, you have 1, 2, you have 3. So you just keep adding the previous number. So there was 1 and there was 2, right? If you add 1 plus 2, you get 3. If you add 3 plus 2, you get 5, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you add 5 plus 3, you get 8.
8.
I'm just telling you how this is called the Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for Chrome Masters, isn't it?
But you also need to know it because I've been in a meeting once.
Okay.
And they were arguing. So the developers from I was working with, there were some BAs from my own company, and then BAs from, not BAs, developers from my own company, and developers from the company that we were working for. Now they were arguing. Estimation, is it based on do you do parallel estimation? Is it based on the effort, or is it based on the whatever? They were arguing, and they were expecting me to answer for them. You get? So myself and the delivery manager, we were of one opinion. Then as well as the developer for the business we were working for. But our own developer, as one of our developers, it was like, oh, no. That if there are 2 people working on it, working on front end and back end, then you have to add their efforts together to get the estimation. You understand? So we're saying, no, it's not per person. It's about the complexity of the task that you're doing. It's not like, oh, it's going to take me this much, then I'll put it, then I'll add it. You know how like some pieces of work, somebody's working on the front end, somebody's working on the back end. So what they were arguing was that, do you just assign a number as the effort, or do you say take into consideration the fact that 2 people are working on it? So now maybe double that number. Do you get what I mean now? So by the time they do that, they'll not be having things like 21.
21, yeah.
And 21, you can't be having that. I think that's too big. Do you get? So here we go. So I just give you an example of when a story can be too big. So but by the time you get into 8, 13, maybe 13, they can say, it will take a while, but I know what I'm doing. We should be able to finish it. All right. But once it's crossing that one, and I'm not saying it as the be all end all. Oh. I'm not saying that anywhere you see 21, you say, we're splitting the story. You also have to gauge a lot of these things. You have to use your judgment. It's highly subjective. Okay, so the pros of this one is that we've put everything in one. But one of the cons is that the story might be too big to go into one sprint. And we know the principles of invest. The story has to be small enough to be finished, to be completed in one sprint. So the option might be to that split it. And go back here. Do you get? Or it might be a case that, okay, the developer say, oh no, it's fine. It's not, you said just to view, isn't it? You want to view it. You didn't say you want to click on it. Say no. We'll go into all those functionalities in another sprint. Say, no, that's fine. I can do it in one day. Do you get? So that's why we said writing your user stories, it encourages creative, thinking. Because that's where they start thinking, oh, this story that you wrote,
That doesn't make sense.
it's actually bigger. Either it doesn't make sense, or I've gone for a refinement meeting before, and they told me that they cannot even, I think, like, there are so many unknowns. Do you get? And you're just going in as you're representing a user. You don't know those are technical jargons, and you're saying, oh no, we need to know this and that, because as this story is here like this, we cannot develop it because there's some uncertainties and unanswered questions. And initially, before, I used to feel bad that, I've not done a good work, but no, it's not on you. So what I do in cases like that, what is the additional information that you are seeking to get? And then they tell you. Then you go back to your stakeholder, because sometimes there's no way you would have known it, because they will be coming from a technical. Sometimes you even go to the stakeholder doesn't even have the answer, and you're like, okay, please point me to your technical, maybe architect or something, to answer that question for me. So yeah. So that's how you can
Yeah.
Watch everything up. You use your additional information, and then when you have pictures, by pictures I mean like your wireframe.
Trim.
That way the developer is just seeing it. This is exactly what I'm doing. So instead, and it saves you when you have your wireframe, you know, and the diagram. It even saves you typing plenty. Oh, the header should, because you know, if you say you want to just do a header menu, right? Header menu, view header menu, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not putting wireframe, do you know what you will say? Let me put number 3 there. But please note, let me put in a different color because it's not really part of this. But I'm just trying to give you an example. Like if you're using, you will not say the logo should be positioned at the top left corner of the, I don't know, we use a landing page or header, I don't know.
Landing, yeah.
Landing page, right? You will not say the sign up button, for example.
Oh yeah, you have to list it. Yeah.
Button should immediately follow
Follow
you
this.
will type and type until
Yeah.
you now say the login should be to the right of the sign up button. Then you now say the set bar should be positioned in this one, this one, this one. So you will be explaining, you understand? So
Okay.
so when they do the training for wireframe, please,
Yeah.
you guys should make sure you attend. Okay, so
Thank you.
I will leave it at this because they did not send me this one, but yeah, I just think
Thank
it was
you.
a good way of it was a good way of showing how this can work in practice, because everything that we're doing, we have to relate it to the outside world, isn't it? Because that's where you're going essentially. So yeah. So you've learned Fibonacci thingy just now, and you have to put in your effort and all that. All right. So do you have any other questions?
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't really talk about it, but I just wanted to know, at what point do we use use case, or what's the difference between use case and user story?
Okay. Your user story is that representation of what the user wants, but your use case, I think, is the interaction between different like different components. Like in the use case, you have please don't quote me because I'm rusty for on use cases. I can't remember the last time I even used it, but you have like actors.
Yeah.
Am I right? You have
Yeah.
actors. And you have, so some of the actors, you have actors, so it's an interplay of systems, and so like this actor does this, or maybe assesses this system, you understand? And when they assess that, it produces a report, and it shows interplay, it shows in fact, do you want us to go and check for the meaning of use case?
You're right.
Am I right? I'm
Yes,
right,
you're
Abi?
right. It's the relationship between
My brain is still
user
working.
and the user or
Yeah.
external user.
And,
So it could be both. You're right.
my brain is still functioning.
Yeah.
So this is something that will happen, right? Like as a business analyst, you know that it's so broad, right? It's so broad, and you might find that you're working for years, and you like the people I'm working with now. I only started working with them in June. Yeah, in June. See all this one I was saying, and developers, they don't even. It's like, what's that one? They don't even consider. Imagine working in a team of BAs. Do you get? I see, like, and when I joined, I was like, thank goodness, so I don't even have to deal with developers again, But as you're sharpening your skills on one side, another one is dying, if you get what I mean. So it depends on what area you're focusing on. So like in Blue Sky, you might do wireframes and everything, but in my former project, I never ever did a wireframe. Why? Because we had what they call them, a UX designer. In fact, the UX designers, they don't even do wireframe. They do prototypes, as in like, so you'll be seeing this, seeing how it's going to look. So it's not a wireframe that's like black and white and all that, you get. So I can't remember the last time I did a wireframe. So it depends on what area or what area you're focusing on, or the role that you're working on has not made you focus on. Okay, so yeah, thankfully my brain is still working. So the use case shows the interplay. And your question was what? How often would we use it?
Yeah, so I just wanted to know the difference and if we are going to use a use case as well. But yeah.
So it's your user story that you would it's your user story that you find that you use
Use case.
most of, no, as opposed to the use case. So they're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. So if there are no more questions,
Just one more, please. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's fine.
Just in case, you know, your acceptance criteria, it's very large. Do you just keep going if you're using the Gherkin syntax? Do you just keep going and or you or is it
You know, like I was telling you,
an additional information?
So yeah, in some cases, I mean, because you don't even want to see 20 lines of and you get, I mean, it will look clumsy, and you know, so in my real case, I'm using the additional information, you know, to the additional information there, or it might make you ask yourself if that user story is not too big.
Okay.
But you see that first one we did about viewing the logo, right? It's such a straightforward process that, in fact, it does not even need that when, but it's just that you have to put something in the when you get to. It's so simple. Like the steps, it's just like maybe one or two. You don't even. It's just one step, as in for your eye to actually see the logo, and you cannot capture that one under your acceptance criteria anyway. You know, so for some other processes, it takes. I mean, it's long and winded, right? And you might have up to maybe 6 different steps and all that. That's all right. But by the time your acceptance criteria is growing arms and legs, and you say giving this and that, and that and that and that, when this and 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 this, then this and you might want to ask yourself, are you sure this story is small enough to be completed? Because mind you, every step you put there is going to be tested by the testers. Okay. So does that answer your question, Jeremy?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. All right then. Any other questions? 5, 4, 3, 2, 0. Okay, guys, I hope you found this useful. As with anything, please just go and practice. Do you know you can go on when I was doing my training, I would go on Google, you know, like, in fact, Google is your friend. I'll just say user stories for this. Sometimes you find, sometimes you not find. Do you get? But yeah, just go and see what's out there. Please practice, and that's where you build your confidence. Because when you go out there, you now realize that it's the same thing I've been doing now, and then you not be asking yourself, is this what they're paying me for? I'm telling you, sometimes I'll just be like, hey, okay, I haven't really. Sometimes you just wonder, because you've practiced and you've demystified the whole thing, you know, and it's made it simple. Well, you've gained mastery over it. I'm glad you found it engaging, Jimmy. I hope you guys feel you benefited from it. Just please practice, and I want to beg you guys, all 13 of you here, or I don't know if there's any body here, but yeah, I'm assuming that all of you here are just doing the internship. Please, as BAs, you need to speak up. Do you get, like, it has to be something that, I mean, if you have a question, ask, go for it. Because you know, when you don't ask that question, you now go back, the time has passed for you to even ask the question. You will not want to, because you're not feeling ashamed, you won't want to go back and ask the question, because you'll be like, I'll be looking stupid because that was when I should have asked the question. And then you might sit on a piece of work that would have taken you maybe like a few hours. You might sit on it for 2 weeks. I'm telling you. And then eventually you would ask those questions, but then with so much embarrassment, and then and it doesn't look good on you as well. So please ask away. There's no foolish, stupid, or whatever question. You're a BA and you're expected to ask, even the obvious questions, because you're not a mind reader. Some people have information that they're expecting you to know, but how would you know it if you are not told? Okay, so that's what I want to leave you with. Ask away, ask questions, okay? And please, during this internship, do stuff. It's better to do it and do it wrong and get corrected than just sitting down and saying, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to embarrass myself for anything. Okay, so we'll call it a day this evening. Thank you all for coming. I have been your tutor for the day. Right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
Hope to
You're
see you
welcome.
again. Hope to
Yeah.
hear from you